Hello, everyone. Welcome to A Million Little Perspectives. Um, this is episode 8 of A Million Little Things. We have our co-host, Adam here. Hello.
Hello.
This episode is called Fight or Flight. It's written by Taunia Bacharaya and Ali Lavalento.
DJ.
No. And it's directed by Amy Cannon Munn. This episode's basic, simple. Well, this is a Maggie based episode. The episode starts with Maggie on a plane with a guy, and it's crashing, and we find out
what?
that Maggie's
Wait, the plane's crashing.
Yeah. And she wakes up and learns it's a nightmare. And Maggie keeps having the same nightmare over and over again about, Maggie losing control basically, and she decides to it's time to leave town, and decides it's time to leave town. And, basically none of the group at the current moment knows that Maggie is Maggie has a cancer back, and that her fear is the thing that's driving the fact not to get chemo and live the life fullest. So basically, in this episode, everyone in the group learns about Maggie's cancer in a different way. Some of them learn it from Maggie herself. Others learn it from the rest of the gang. Maggie's ready to pack up her stuff and leave because Gary broke up, or Gary and Maggie broke up, and Regina and Delilah, basically the two female who got to know Maggie well, doesn't want her to leave. So Regina, Maggie finally tells Regina that her cancer is back, and it's time to move on to a place where she can die in peace, basically, instead of having this drama with Gary and
wow,
etc.
that's kind of dark.
Yeah,
that's really dark.
I know. So Regina decides to tell Rome and Delilah, and they convince Maggie to stay, basically. And Maggie's crying because she never had friends like Rome, Regina, and Delilah, because no one really, except for her family, really cared about her for deeply. So basically, Maggie gets closure and decides to stay decides to stay, and starts to
in what?
Maggie decides to stay in Boston. That's where the place is located.
Right.
And then in memory of this, the gang decides to have a pre-opening at the restaurant that John left them. But meanwhile, Gary's in denial. The only reason Gary broke up with Maggie is because he wanted her to get treatment. And the only person Gary knows,
right?
yeah, to cure cancer. But
right.
And Gary's seeks out to the only person who might be able to convince her to get cancer, to get treatment, is one of her college friends from Chicago. So Gary flies to Chicago to seek the help of this guy that he barely knows about, but has this connection with Maggie. And Gary does try his best to get some kind of a reasoning towards why Maggie's not getting chemo. But Gary has failed on this mission, returning empty-handed about not knowing what has happened, basically, to Maggie to want her, not to make sure that Gary came empty-handed, like he couldn't find any leverage to for the thing, but yeah, that's what happens between. And then we always have Eddie in a small capacity as a storyline. Eddie's moving on with his life, or his life he has. He's starting to look for a new apartment, because he doesn't want to travel Gary, because Gary's being a roommate's nice, but tension shifting sometimes. So and Eddie has Theo, and whenever he has to babysit, he has to do something, basically. And Eddie tells Theo about getting a new apartment, and Theo doesn't like that, basically, probably because it means Eddie's moving on, and that's not a good sign for Catherine and Eddie, about whether or not they will be reconciling their relationship. All the drama that Eddie has created with many members of the group. The episode ends with the opening that I mentioned about about the restaurant, and Maggie's trying to talk to Gary, but Gary's ignoring Maggie, and Eddie's telling Gary to talk to Maggie. They have to do something about this awkward tension that he has created, and Gary just snaps. He starts shouting in front of the group because Gary learns that everyone knows that about Maggie's cancer has returned, and decides not to, and respects her wishes, unlike Gary, who's doing everything he can to get her to get treatment, which I think many of us would understand, and many of us would understand to support the other person's choices. What would you do? Would you just stand there, or would you?
I'm not the person to just stand there. I'd probably just keep going.
Right.
Keep being persistent.
And Gary.
Because then, if I didn't, I'd feel bad that I didn't try enough.
Yeah, that's why Gary keeps. Gary has this complete outburst in front of the group about Maggie not getting treatment, and it's a very emotional about that. And Maggie does feel Maggie does understand why Gary wants to get her get treatment for her, and Maggie does have this at the end of a slightly of a breakdown as she starts to recover from the as Maggie finally starts to recover from the nightmare that she has by collapsing onto the floor, and finally Maggie sees this clear blue sky view, and the plane is able to proceed, which basically is a symbolism for Maggie finally being able to have closure about this something that we still haven't found out about. And it's a short episode about Maggie's cancer, and how everyone is dealing with it. Rome is also dealing with it. With Rome reached out to Maggie for suffering depression and everything. So the group feels it's right to respect while Gary's pursuing everything he can, which is also understandable. So yeah, it's a short episode, but it's a nice episode to say, I guess. What do you think of the episode about Maggie's cancer being, revealed to everyone, because at the beginning, everyone thought Maggie, cancer had dissipated, or, she's in a support group because her cancer has slightly been gone, so yeah.
I think it brings good conflict, but at the same time, it also brings out what's his name? The guy being persistent.
Gary.
It shows kind of how Gary, just one of Gary's character, how he works. Because everyone's just respecting it, but he's kind of the only one really adamant on getting chemo.
Yeah, it's a nice
respect
episode.
It a lot. Yeah.
It's a nice short episode, less conflicted episode, I guess. Well, the next episode, the next two episodes, pretty big. The next episode's next two episodes connected in some ways. The next episode's called Perspective, and it is directed by DJ this time. So I guess, Adam, you'll be happy because it's directed by DJ.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the episode after that's the Christmas finale or the winter finale. So it's a massive episode that unravels a lot of things. So stay tuned for more, which will come soon, hopefully. Yes, but our Christmas have passed, but we'll probably say that just so that if Christmas happens and someone's listening during Christmas, we did say Merry Christmas. But yeah, it's not Christmas. It's 2021, slightly better, but the podcast continues, and it will continue, hopefully. Well, thank you for listening, listeners, and other people who's listening. Yeah, thank you for listening. And yeah, we just hit 100 downloads, which is big. Yeah, but
no,
please.
It was 50,000.
Yes.
It's okay, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, we have 103 downloads now. Yes, we're just gonna celebrate. But 1,000 downloads or 50,000 downloads is not the amount that we have right now. So please get your friends to listen to this podcast. They don't have to listen to it. They just have to download it so that we see the number. Well,
no. Listen to all of it.
Yes, listen to it too. That would be nice.
All of
yes.
It. Download all of it.
Yeah. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time, I guess.